Hey, welcome to the Explainer. Think of this as your personal study guide for a really cool topic, bringing powerful AI right into your data warehouse. We're going to break down exactly how you can use Google's Gemini models inside BigQuery to tackle some really common business problems. So yeah, let's get right into it. Okay, so here's the plan for our little study session. First, we'll look at a real-world business challenge. Gotta know the why, right? Then we'll cover the AI power tools you'll need. After that, a super simple two-stage game plan. And then the good stuff, a 5-step SQL playbook to put it all into action. And finally, we'll peek at what's next, with Python and beyond. All right, let's kick things off with section 1, a modern business challenge. Because look, before we dive into all the cool tech, the how, it's just so important to really get a handle on the why.
So does this sound familiar to you? You are just drowning in customer feedback. I mean, you've got reviews, social media posts, comments pouring in, and you know there are golden nuggets of insight in there, but you're just swamped. You can't get to them. This is a super classic problem for businesses today.
To make this totally concrete, let's imagine a company. We'll call them Coffee on Wheels. Now, they're doing a great job gathering customer reviews from social media, but the feedback is messy. It's text, it's images, and the sheer amount of it is just overwhelming. Their big goal? They want to understand what customers are really feeling so they can improve their service. But they're stuck. They need a smart, efficient way to turn that mountain of feedback into actual usable insights. So how in the world do they solve this? Well, that brings us to section 2. Let's talk about the tech stack, or as I like to call them, your AI power tools. Okay, power tool number 1 is BigQuery. And you gotta think of it as way more than just a place to dump your data. It's a serverless data warehouse, sure, but it's also your central data library and a super high-speed analytical engine. It's the place that holds everything and the engine you use to make sense of it all.
And your second power tool? That's Gemini. This is Google's super advanced AI. The key thing here is that it's multimodal. What does that mean? It means it gets more than just text. It understands images, it understands code, you name it. The best way to think of it is like having a genius researcher on call 24/7, ready to analyze whatever you send its way. And it's all hosted right on Vertex AI.
So you've got these two powerful tools. How do they actually talk to each other? Well, if BigQuery is your massive data warehouse and Gemini is the genius researcher, then BigQuery ML is the bridge. It's the connector. Think of it like a special access pass. It's the magic piece inside BigQuery that lets your genius researcher, Gemini, securely walk into the warehouse and analyze everything inside. Okay, let's move on to section 3 and see how this all comes together into a simple, memorable game plan. Seriously, if you're studying this stuff, this 2-stage workflow is the core concept you need to lock in for any AI project you do in BigQuery. It honestly boils down to just 2 words: create and use. That's it. First, you use a create model statement to build and get your AI model ready. Second, you put that model to work on your actual data using a whole set of ML.functions. Create, then use. It really is that straightforward. So let's peek inside that create stage for a second. First, you get your data ready. Then, and this is key, you have to choose what kind of model you're building. For our Coffee on Wheels example, we're going to choose a remote model. Why? Well, because that's our special connection, our pipeline to those powerful Gemini models sitting over in Vertex AI. And naturally, you'll want to use ML.evaluate to make sure it's actually working well. All right, once your model is created, you're ready for the fun part, the use stage. This is where you actually get your answers. For our coffee company, we'd use a function like ML.generateText function. This is where you can literally ask Gemini to summarize reviews or analyze the sentiment. This one function is the magic button that sends your question to the AI and brings the analysis right back into BigQuery. Okay, theory's great and all, but let's get our hands dirty. In section 4, we're opening up the SQL playbook. This is your practical, step-by-step guide for analyzing all those customer reviews using a language you probably already know and love, SQL. This pipeline here shows you the entire process in 5 key steps. First, you connect. You set up that secure handshake with Gemini. Second, you construct an object table.
Now, that's just a fancy name for a special table that lets BigQuery see unstructured files, like the images in those reviews. Once that's set up, you create your model, you analyze the data by sending it prompts, and finally you act on the amazing insights you get back. And this is what that analyze step actually looks like. It's just a prompt. You're giving the AI a clear, direct instruction in plain English, but it's happening right inside your SQL query. Here you're asking it to do two things at once: tell you if the sentiment is positive, negative, or neutral, and pull out the main topics being discussed. It's like having a conversation with your data, with AI as the translator. And you can get even smarter with your prompts. A zero-shot prompt is just a direct command, like the one we just saw. Super simple. But for more control, you could use one-shot prompting. That's where you give it a single example to show the AI the exact format you want back, maybe some clean JSON. Or, for our coffee company, we could use few-shot prompting. We'd give it several examples of great customer replies to teach the AI how to draft new ones in that same friendly, helpful tone. Now, SQL is incredibly powerful, no doubt about it. But it's not the only tool in the shed. So in our final section, let's look at what's next. We'll explore Python and figure out when it might be the better tool for the job. Look, choosing between these two really comes down to what you're trying to do. SQL is the undisputed king for straightforward, large-scale analysis. It's wicked fast, and tons of analysts already know it. But for more complex stuff, like building a completely automated pipeline that goes from feedback all the way to a drafted response, Python gives you that ultimate flexibility and control. And here's the best part. You don't actually have to choose one or the other. You can use both, side by side, right inside the same BigQuery notebook. And that brings us to the end of our study guide. We've gone through the business problem, the AI-powered tools, that simple two-stage game plan, and the practical SQL playbook. What all this really shows is a brand new reality. AI isn't some far-off, complicated thing anymore. It's right there, baked directly into your data warehouse, just waiting for your questions. So I guess the only thing left to ask is, with this power at your fingertips, what problem are you going to solve first?